Now, Sports Talk with Brodes. Here's Hunter Brody.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome on into Sports Talk with Brodes. The Philadelphia 76ers are sitting at 15-6 after 21 games. I told everyone that after the 20-game mark, I will give my assessment, my first assessment on this team once we have a good sample size, and we are definitely sitting at enough games where I can say I feel comfortable giving my first real analysis on this team. That's different than post-game reaction. This is my first firm, real analysis on what I've seen to this point, and I am obviously in a great mood thinking about this team. Joel Embiid has been outstanding, absolutely phenomenal, so dominant that I feel he can be the guy that truly brings this team to the promised land. I think Doc Rivers has a role in this. Daryl Morey has a big role in this. Tobias Harris has been lethal. And there's this narrative out there that I don't like Doc Rivers. That's not true at all. I don't like that people put all the blame on one man in the last 4 or 5 years. The roster was abysmal. The players weren't ready to win yet. They were still in their learning stages. Like, there's so many reasons why the Sixers didn't win a championship over the last handful of years. It wasn't just because of one man. Now, take that away from it. I feel like Doc Rivers has had his fingerprints all over this fantastic start. Doc Rivers is clearly better at his job than Brett Brown was at his job. That's two totally different conversations, though. Why the Sixers didn't win a championship in the past wasn't because of the head coach. There are so many reasons why they didn't win a championship, starting with their star players weren't ready to really succeed yet to the level they need to win a title. And to be fair, I still don't know if they're there yet. You might need more than just Joel Embiid, but it's clear and evident that Joel Embiid is. He has taken that next step. He has delivered. And I feel, while yes, Doc Rivers and him being hired has pushed him to that level, it's just the organization changing over, bringing in new faces and bringing in NBA professionals from top to bottom of the front office to the bottom of the coaching staff that has really changed the mindset of this franchise from all of the players as well. My point is, there's 6, 7, 8 reasons why, to me, this team is thriving and playing fantastic basketball. It's not just because of the head coaching change, but the head coaching change does matter. All right? Like, I don't think it's that hard to comprehend that. I think an NBA coach has value. Their value is not as much as others feel that it is. This is my personal opinion. It's not as much as others feel it is, but for what they do bring to the table, Doc Rivers succeeds in that area, and you can tell the vibe of this team is very, very bought in to Doc Rivers. And we had Furkan Korkmaz on 97.3 ESPN today, so I had an opportunity to interview him, and he did touch on Doc Rivers, and he said, Doc Rivers is a legend. And the way that came out of his mouth, Mike Gill and I looked at each other as if that really stood out to us, because no one looked at Brett Brown as a legend, and they had no reason to look at him like that. And you could say 90% of the league players don't look at their head coach and say he's a legend. But the fact that you have had someone with so many games under his belt and everyone respects him to such a high degree, that changes your sense of urgency in the locker room and on game day and during games. These players look at him as a legend. Well, that changes the message insanely. And I think that is very important. Now, I'm sure you're wondering, Brodes, what the hell did you ask this guy if you sit there every single day and rip apart what he is and you question if he could possibly ever work in the postseason? Well, I kept it 100. Here's what I asked Furkan Korkmaz to start the interview for my questions. Yeah, I will be honest, Furkan. I've been critical of your play at times over the years, so you can be harsh towards me. If I can dish it, I can definitely take it. You have impressive games in regular season moments. In your eyes, what needs to happen for that to kind of happen in playoff games as well when the intensity in the game changes?
I mean, for me, I think it's coming from defense too. Whenever I play good defense, I'm getting more confidence in the offense too. And also, right now, we are playing a little bit different with the second unit, especially when playing Joe with the band. It's different. And then when we play with the second unit, it's totally different setup. Also for me too. I think as a second unit, we have a lot of potential. We can make more plays. We can play better defense, which I believe, and which I don't think we showed enough to the people, which we can do more. But I think overall, like for me, it's about making the shots and play good defense, and then also with the second unit, make the plays more.
All right, so there you go. I kept it 100 with him. I said, look, dude, I criticize your game. So I could take it, you know what I mean? I could take it if you want to take some shots at me. Now, if I was the player on the other side of the phone when a radio host asked me that, I'd be ripping him apart and taking some jabs. But I guess Furkan didn't want to go down that road. And here's the difference. And it somewhat relates to what I was just talking about when I said there's 5, 6, 7, 8 other reasons why, other than just the coach, and why this team succeeds. Last year, you had 0 shooters to space the floor, to the point where Furkan Korkmaz, you had to rely on him to be your lethal three-point specialist to knock down shots and space the floor at will nonstop when he was out there. Now you have Seth Curry. Now you have Danny Green. Now you have other guys out there where Furkan Korkmaz, you don't have to rely on him so heavily, where that changes everything. You have real NBA starters, professionals that win championships. Danny Green specifically, I'm mentioning when talking about that aspect, but Seth Curry, a player who can log an insane amount of minutes and do it to a real level. Now, Furkan, it's not like you need to rely so insanely on this guy. That changes everything about this team and everything about Furkan Korkmaz when we talk about playoff basketball. So do you see how that's different? I asked him some other questions. I asked him about Danny Green's professionalism as a shooter and how that helped him grow and what he learned from these veterans. I also asked him a little bit about no fans. Because, look, he's a player, I specifically remember last season where he would have 20-plus at the Wells Fargo Center, and he'd drill a couple threes, and the place would go crazy. I asked him a question about, the atmosphere and what it's like to play in these empty arenas, considering you had moments in regular season games where you would force the Wells Fargo Center to literally blow up with excitement. So, I kind of asked him some questions there, and it was a good conversation. I really appreciated Furkan Korkmaz coming on after a big game, the 17 points, and we also asked him about his hand injury because it looked like he made a shot, and then he was grimacing down the court, but he said it's all good from there. So I just wanted to bring that up because I know some people were reaching out to me asking how they could hear the interview and what I was going to say to him and all that, because obviously I rip him, but there it was. So let's talk about where this team is now, right? So before the season started, when I saw Daryl Morey make a couple trades and he moved on from Josh Richardson and he moved on from Al Horford, I thought that this team would be fighting for 4th, 5th seed. They would be in that range where they'd be fighting with Boston, Miami, and it would be the Sixers, and they would kind of battle it out for that 4th, 5th seed, and that's where I thought they would be in. Now, keep in mind, this year with COVID, everything's out of whack. Jimmy Butler had to miss over 2 weeks. It was brutal. The Miami Heat, they were struggling because they couldn't really play. When you miss your big star like that, well, it's absolutely fugazi. You saw the Sixers have to go through that as well, although, their record's still very impressive. Jason Tatum was out for the Boston Celtics for a while. My point is, this season's so weird with regular season games, and I saw people coming at me a bit. Brodes, they're 15-6. What are you going to say about that at your 20-game assessment? It's not really about the record for me. It's about the eye test. What does this team look like? Do they have intangibles that I think relates to what you need when you have to win playoff series? Who is taking that leap? And who is demanding the ball? And what does the offense look like? How is the defense being played? What changed in philosophy on some areas of the court? What does the rotation look like? And does all of those things added up relate to winning a playoff series against another fantastic team that has insane talent on the other side, that has depth, and that has a good coach as well? How does that match up with another fantastic squad? I don't care about these wins against teams that are irrelevant in the regular season. I care about teams that can battle with the Sixers. And not so much I'm talking about one-on-one with Joel Embiid, because of course your answer will be nobody can stand up one-on-one against Joel Embiid. Nobody can stop this man. And I get that, and I'm super intrigued to see how this continues to progress moving forward. But there are teams that have a ton of lethal talent that can have players out there that you go, oh, you can't stop Kevin Durant, and you can't stop James Harden, and how are you going to stop Giannis? Like, there are players out there on other teams where you could say the same thing that you say about Joel Embiid. So how would the Sixers look against those teams? It's not so much about how many wins or losses they have in this 72-game season. It's more the sense and the feel that you're getting, the identity of the team that you're getting. You can win 58 games or you can win 50 games, and you can have what you want to see out of the 50-game season that's different than a 58-win season, just based off of what you're seeing out there, not necessarily the results. Now, though, I'll be honest with you. The way I've seen this team play to this point, I see them now, instead of that 4th, 5th seed battle, I see them battling for that 1st to 3rd seed. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean they can just walk through playoff series and they're definitely 100% the favorite. And here's what I bring up to support that. We saw the Milwaukee Bucks in 2018-2019 win 60 games, 60 regular season games. They finished 60-22. They did not get out of the Eastern Conference. You had the Nuggets, who won 54 games that season, losing 7 games in the second round to Portland. In 2019-2020, that is, the Bucks won 56 games. They won nothing. A 46-win team in the Denver Nuggets went to the Western Conference Finals. And keep in mind, the Sixers that year had 43 regular season wins. Yet the team in the Western Conference Finals, who had 46 wins, was there. And oh, by the way, they beat a Los Angeles Clippers team that was led by Doc Rivers, who had a 3-1 series lead. So I'm just looking around the NBA. It's not so much the Sixers and who they have been and what they have done over the last handful of years or anything like that. I'm not basing this off of just the 76ers. I'm basing this off of the NBA and how I've seen success in regular seasons not ultimately mean that they are dynamite and they are the obvious choice and they will destroy whoever comes their way. Now, to be fair, the teams that do win the titles normally do fall in that 1 through 3 seed as well. So I do think it's valuable. I'm not pretending like that doesn't matter whatsoever. It is very important. Now, you also need to keep in mind, though, home court advantage plays such a significant role when there's fans in the stands that one of the reasons why you do tend to find yourself deeper in the playoffs when you are a higher seed is because if it gets to a Game 7, you have your fan base supporting you and going crazy. You have the advantage. You have the upper hand. Now it's a little bit out of whack because that doesn't really matter. You might feel more comfortable going to the Wells Fargo Center, but it's not the same as when you have 25, 26,000 people going bonkers, shit-faced at the top. And even shit-faced in the lower bowl as well. They're shit-faced all over the place. It's that fun when you go to these events and when you go to these games during the regular season, for sure. And the postseason, I should say, because that's what we're intensely talking about right now. Some other examples. In 2017, 2018, the Rockets won 65 games and lost in the Western Conference Finals. The Raptors consistently for years, 59 wins, 51 wins, winning in the 50s, and they weren't able to get past LeBron James, which is a tough task. LeBron James is a different type of beast. He's a different specimen, and he destroys opponents at will because, well, he's arguably the greatest basketball player who ever played. And you want to argue Michael Jordan? Okay, I got it. He's in the conversation, though. So I could see why teams who had great records would fall because, well, guess what, damn it? Michael Jordan stole a lot of rings from other people, and when you look around his era, there were a lot of guys that were so special but never got the hardware because Michael Jordan consistently won. Well, LeBron James did the same thing, and I think that is reasonable to bring up as well. So I'm bringing all this up because I'm just basing history of the NBA into how I feel about this team and why I'm afraid to commit. I'll be 100% honest with you. There is a side of me that emotionally is afraid to commit, to say this team has it. Oh, no doubt this team's going to win a title. This team is absolutely going to win the Larry O'Brien trophy. I can't go to that level. I just can't. Because I've seen so many teams over the last handful of years. I just gave you the last 3, 4, 5 years, the last window of the last 5 years of all these teams that looked so outstanding, an A+ through 82 games, through a full regular season. But then, when the game changes, they weren't able to deliver because it's not the same game. And I want to preface all this by saying, this is the best Sixers team we have seen. And when you have Joel Embiid playing to this level, you're in the conversation. I see this team now as at least a team that is in the conversation. It's not automatic, it's not definitely, it's not absolutely, but they are in the conversation as one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference, and I didn't anticipate that before the season started. Why? Well, I didn't know Tobias Harris would become this version of himself. This is better than any Tobias Harris has ever been. He's had better seasons than he did last year throughout his entire career. It's never been this, though. It's never been to this extreme. It's never been this efficient. He's never been pulling up in transition with this crazy catch-and-shoot rate to the point that he is now, and that's why this team is thriving so much. The way I look at it is, I want to see this team play where it's not fluky and it's very consistent. Can I rely on Joel Embiid to give me 30 and 10? Yeah, I think the answer is yes. Yes, you can. At this point, can you rely on Tobias Harris to give you 20-plus points on something around 13 field goal attempts? Yes. Yes, I think you can, with maybe 3 3-pointers, which is huge. Yeah, I think that is more the reality than it is the outlier. So yes, I can. Can I rely on Danny Green and Seth Curry? One of the two. Not both. One of the two to have a night where it's like, yeah, he's on tonight. Whether it's 4 threes, and maybe one night it's not either of them, but maybe, Danny has 2 and Seth has 2, and combined they have a night that's respectful. Or maybe it's one night where Danny has 0, but Seth Curry has 5. Or maybe Danny Green has 5 and Seth Curry has 1, but Seth Curry shooting 1 for 8 from the night. Can I rely on one of those two to have a respectful night from 3, where when they're getting the ball wide open in the corner after a Ben Simmons pass, you're feeling good about it, and you're almost backpedaling behind the court to get back on defense, knowing as it's leaving his hands that stroke was pure and it was hitting nothing but net. And I think for the most part, yeah, that's going to happen. One of the two is going to step up more times than not. So that's 3 starters, and the 4th, Danny Green, like, hey, one of the starters might not have the most explosive night in the world, fine. And then the X factor here is Ben Simmons. What version of Ben Simmons are you going to get? Will teams be able to shut him down? More spacing is allowing for him to work. You're also seeing Doc Rivers, though, in these half-court sets, try and work double screens and trying to get him going where he can go downhill when things have slowed down. Now, it's great for right now, and you can see that they're working on things. The real question is, how is it going to translate? Will it translate? If it doesn't translate, what's the problem? But with all that being said, there's one thing that you really need to be in the mix, and it's a player playing at the level of Joel Embiid. When you have that, anything is capable because he could steal you a game. You might have no business winning, but Joel Embiid gives you 47. Goes to the free throw line 18 times. Hits 16 of them. Has 4 rejections, maybe 3. And while Ben Simmons might struggle on the offensive end, he's giving you 4 steals and 8 assists. Now, I've been very hard on Ben Simmons, and I heard Daryl Morey say the quote, "We're in championship or bust mode right now." He brought up the fact that we're in championship or bust mode. And that definitely sparked a little light bulb in my brain. What does that mean? I think that means he's going to go out there and make a trade to bring in some reliable pieces. Do I think that means a star is going? No. No, I do not. Because when you see this team with the starting 5, they don't lose basketball games. So while a lot of us are frustrated with Ben and we question his play to this point, and I want to bring up, oh man, did I actually have that on the other screen? Nope, no I don't. Here we go, good. I want to bring up something that I saw from Paul Hudrick. He's our 97.3 ESPN insider for the 76ers, and he tweeted about Ben Simmons in the way that he has played to this point. Aha! Here it is. So Ben Simmons is averaging, in the last 6 games, almost 16 points per game on 60% shooting, and more importantly, he's averaging 1.8 turnovers, which is a significant difference. We were crucifying the man when he was averaging 11 points, when he was turning the ball over at will. Well, I think over the last 6 games, that noise has simmered down a bit, but that's because he's getting back to more of his average over the last handful of years. I always said that you need Ben Simmons to average more around 20, and if he keeps up the pace that he did previously and just shot better at the free throw line, you would go from 16 points per game to 20 points per game with not really changing much, not really changing his aggressiveness too much. It was more just about executing at the free throw line, and then you would see that boost. Joel taking that leap and becoming more of that mature player that we were waiting for, well, it doesn't make that as much of a focus point. We don't dissect it as heavily, but what you've seen out of Ben out of the last 6 games, that added to what I mentioned earlier about Tobias and Joel and what you can rely on them to do, that right there, 16 points per game, 60% from the field, way less turnover where he's controlling the rock and making sure it's staying in the Sixers' possession where they're able to make better plays and they're not giving up points in transitions and they're not allowing easy buckets for the opposing team. Well, if you can get that out of Ben Simmons, tied together with everything else, you are in a serious conversation of winning the East. It doesn't mean they will win the East because there are some juggernauts out there, but you are absolutely in the mix legitimately, not fake, not one of those faux teams that are there hanging around. No, you're talking a serious conversation on can they come out of the East, and that's how far I've come to this point. You know, when you see this team play, this is a different style team. This is what a real team looks like. And they are smooth right now, and they're operating cleanly right now when Joel Embiid is on the floor, of course. And look, there's hiccups along the way, but that's any basketball team. Good basketball teams make runs against good basketball teams. The Lakers were going to make a late run. I didn't want it to get to that serious of a run, but good teams make runs against good teams. It's about how you counter those, how much you limit those runs, and if you can explode in late situations. There are some concerns about how this offense goes in late situations, and there's a common theme. There are some struggles in that area, but hopefully that's something they can address as games continue, and they're finding ways to win them. They are right now. But it gets ugly. It doesn't need to be that ugly as it is. Will they find ways to tweak those situations as the rest of this regular season games play out so we can see them adapt and see them kind of push forward to more of a serious contender as games move forward? So I actually asked the question for the Anytime Hotline, what's your assessment? So we have some of those calls to react to. We also had people commenting on YouTube on the community page, and they were sharing their thoughts there as well. So I definitely want to get to those. First, I want to let you know about my friends over at DraftKings. It's the Super Bowl week, and it's pretty crazy. It doesn't feel like it right now, and I wonder if that's because of the Zoom situations and whatnot. But look, the 55th Super Bowl is this weekend, 55, and a game this big deserves a big prize, not just some trophy. And DraftKings, the official daily fantasy sports partner of Super Bowl 55, has up to $55 million in total prizes up for grabs with their Super Bowl prediction pool. How's that for big? All you have to do to get your share of these huge prizes is enter the DraftKings free Super Bowl prediction challenge. Once you submit your picks, you will get a free instant prize up to $25,000. And if you have the most predictions correct, you can win the top prize of $1 million. Download the DraftKings app now and use promo code Brodes to enter the free $55 million Super Bowl prediction challenge. Everyone gets an instant prize up to $25,000 just for playing. So use promo code Brodes now and enter the free $55 million Super Bowl challenge. Only at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of Super Bowl 55. Terms, conditions, and eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details. All right, here we go.
Okay, so as you said, we are 21 games into the season, and the Sixers, in my opinion, are a championship contender. I feel that right now they can easily make it to the Eastern Conference, make it to the Eastern Conference Finals if Joel Embiid keeps on playing like an MVP. If Ben Simmons continues to be aggressive, that will also help a lot. Also, if Tobias Harris can still play at this level, be looking very well. And if Steph Curry and Danny Green can heat up at the right time, this team will be even more deadly than it already is. Off the bench, in this last game against the Pacers, there was a great spark plug off the bench. And if that continues to happen into the playoffs, where Joel Embiid will need more rest in a 7-game series, that can really benefit the whole team. And overall, if the Sixers keep on playing at this level, they can make it to the finals and have a chance to maybe beat the Lakers or whoever they are facing in the finals.
That would be incredible if you're telling me you see a Sixers-Lakers matchup in the postseason. Here's where I'll disagree a little bit, because we did have similar thoughts, right? Because you brought up the fact that if this team, if Tobias plays this way, if Embiid plays this way, you said they can easily get to the Eastern Conference Finals. And that's where I'm kind of drawing the line. I don't think it's going to be easy just because they are playing this way in the regular season. Things change. They really do. And Giannis has been playing at an MVP level for the last handful of years. And that hasn't related in going to the NBA Finals. Now, Joel Embiid is right now, and here's the difference, because I do see a difference between the two, even though I'm bringing that up. Giannis has a major flaw in his game. Giannis's flaw is very similar to Ben Simmons. Now, the difference is Giannis is willing to take them, but it doesn't mean he's good at making them, and teams want him to do it, so he's being dared, and he's doing it anyway, which is hurting the basketball team. Joel Embiid does not have that flaw. He does everything phenomenal right now. There's a hiccup in his game. I'd say it's passing out of the double team, and I think if squads find a way to throw different action at him and bring doubles in so many different ways and take away those set spots on the floor where he knows that someone's going to be available, where his comfortable spots are for his teammates, teams might adapt and might make those adjustments to take Joel Embiid out of his comfort zone and really screw with him and really mess with him mentally. That is definitely possible. But the flaw in Giannis's game, even though he plays at an MVP level, Joel Embiid doesn't really have that. So that is the difference between the two. I do think it's fair to bring that up, though. And Shake Milton is a concern of mine. So looking at his game log, I think Daryl Morey bringing up championship or bust. I know a power forward is definitely in the conversation, and I think a backup point guard needs to be. Shake Milton. He shot 4 of 9 the other night with 9 points. 4 of 12 the other night with 13 points. 3 of 10 for 10 points. This is not very efficient stuff. 2 of 7. 3 of 9. 4 of 10. And when we had Paul Hudrick on the Sports Bash today, he brought up an interesting point. He thinks Shake Milton's a good scorer, but almost being the primary ball handler is doing him a disservice. He's so focused on running the offense, running the point. If he was more of a, hey, I'm just a scorer and I'm going out there to help get buckets, he might be more aggressive to the basket. He might be more explosive and take it to the rack and try and finish with both hands. But because he wants to be that slow down the game guy, let me run the offense, I'm with that second unit, I'm that point guard of the second unit, it almost takes away from his efficientness of scoring the basketball. It's an interesting perspective for sure. I think that there's some validity to it, absolutely. I think this team should take that step in terms of being a serious contender. What would help them out even more is if you go out and get an experienced veteran backup point guard that can create his own shot, score off the dribble, and be more of a threat than Shake Milton is. That is a concern for me, is Shake Milton.
Hey, what's up, Brodes? This is Juan calling out of North Philly, man. I'm just giving my take after the 20 game, into the season. I feel as though we still need a piece, and I really feel like we could get Bradley Beal. I feel like if we give up a couple pieces, key pieces, maybe, because we need that scoring threat. I mean, Embiid, he's our anchor. But, double teams, triple teams, you gotta give it. And Tobias Harris, he's going to be there, but he's just not that go-to guy that we need. Bradley Beal is definitely that guy that we need. And as far as, our defense and our offense, I feel like we're on pace to, contend for a championship. We just need that one piece on offense.
Well, my question to you, though, is if you want to get Bradley Beal, that's fine. You have to give up Ben Simmons. There's no other way. So if you pick up Bradley Beal, and I've been on the record saying I would move Ben Simmons if the pieces are right. Now, Ben has definitely performed at a better rate over the last handful of games, which makes me fall back in love with what I've always loved out of his game, just expecting him to eventually take that next step, which unfortunately I don't know if that's going to happen. And also, unfortunately, I think not taking that next step could possibly be the difference in this team being able to win based off of how squads can defend you a different way when you have someone like Ben out there being your primary ball handler that's not a threat to shoot and not a threat to score in that way. If you trade Ben for Bradley Beal, I still think you're missing something. So you gain the scoring, you lose a significant part of your team when it comes to running your offense, when it comes to getting Seth Curry and Danny Green such wide open looks, when it comes to the defensive side of the game. And you saw how important that was with that zone that I think you're going to see even more because it was that scary. So I just raised the question. If you do go get Bradley Beal, and it's Bradley Beal and Embiid, yes, it provides a spark offensively and gives you more in that area, but does it hurt you in other areas so much to the point where you're somewhat stuck in this, you're still not good enough fully yet, close, but you're still missing pieces? Because you started the phone call off saying you still feel that this team is a piece away or so. If you trade Ben to get Beal, you're trading two players. Are you still missing that piece? And I think it's it's reasonable to look at it from that angle.
What's up, bro? Just want to say love the channel. However, I do want to say I feel like you definitely owe Coach an apology for what you were saying, comparing him to Brett Brown last year. Doc is a million times better than anything Brett Brown has ever done.
Okay, I think that's pretty obvious, right? Come on. Look, I don't think the NBA head coach does as much as other people do. I just don't. I think this league comes down to the NBA players, the superstars. There is a role of an NBA coach. Doc Rivers is clearly significantly better than Brett Brown. Why I always bring up Brett Brown is because I feel the people are so irrational and are so heavily involved in hating that man so much that they were blinded by all of the other issues that they were not realizing and that they were not allowing themselves to realize when looking at it logically. I want to know teams that have a 22-year-old and a 24-year-old that go win NBA titles because they are the two guys leading the team. It does not happen. It is not how this league works. I've always been very consistent saying this team will win a championship when these players form and grow at the age of 27, 28, 29, 30. Because the nature of the league tells you that. Embiid is 26, and he's doing it a year earlier than I anticipated. And I will admit that when it comes to helping the guy grow and helping him learn other areas on the floor, Doc Rivers has done that more than Brett Brown has done that. But here's another thing. To think that Doc Rivers all of a sudden walked right into this organization, snapped his fingers, and Joel Embiid went from where he was last year to this, all only because of Doc Rivers. Like, that is asinine to me. That can't be any more irrational. Because if that was the case, Doc Rivers would have 30 million championships, and he would transform Paul George to the next best player, and he would have had Kawhi Leonard to be the next best player, and every player he ever touched would automatically, with the snap of his fingers, become the MVP of the league. Joel Embiid's sense of urgency and mentality switch and everything that he has bottled up over the last handful of years has been put into work in the offseason, and over time it all snapped slowly but surely, and then eventually it's like, okay, he took all of his past experiences. Each offseason, he put in the time, he put in the work ethic, he put in the dedication on and off the floor, from the Chick-fil-A milkshakes to having his own chef, to watching others around the league and progressing his game, from just going to work and battling and working and working and working. And it all comes into fruition here. And now, because of his age and because of his experiences and because of his maturity and his knowledge of the game growing, he has put himself in a better position. Does Doc Rivers and this coaching staff have a role in that? Absolutely. You and others, I think, have way more in your head of how much Doc Rivers did to that. The guy got hired in the offseason. Joel has been improving way before Doc Rivers was hiring. And that's where the disconnect is for me. But some would make this into, I hate Doc Rivers. I don't hate Doc Rivers. And I never said that Brett Brown was a better coach than Doc Rivers. I pointed out his resume, which are facts, and said that there's flaws in the resume. And I said that he demands a lot of respect because of who he is, and players respect him and look up to him because he's been successful and he is this leader of men that guys really value. I don't hate the guy. I'm rooting for the guy to succeed. I want him to really make this team the best that they can possibly be. With the role that he has, I want him to succeed the best way that he possibly can. My problem and issue is always going to be how flawed the argument is that Brett Brown was the reason why this team failed. As if this team now is even close roster-wise to the same team that you worked with over the last handful of seasons. It's just not a reality. It's just not a reality. So I don't know Doc Rivers shit, in my opinion. I've given him all the praise that he deserves, and I've given him the criticism that he deserves based off of factual information of his resume of being underwhelming and coming up small. The Clippers fired him for a reason. He's been in different organizations for a reason. I like Doc Rivers. And you have a window when a new coach comes in of a fresh voice. Eventually, it dwindles away and it fizzles out. But right now, you're in the prime of that new voice. So this is when you get the most of your team. Let's see if they can take advantage of that. I like Doc Rivers. Don't act as if I don't like Doc Rivers. I like Doc Rivers. He's clearly an upgrade. It was time to end the last regime. I like Doc Rivers. He's got flaws, though, and it's okay to point that out.
Sup, Brodes? First off, I want to say, new listener here in the last couple months. Love your shit, man. You're awesome. Keep doing your thing. I think that this team goes as far as Ben Simmons is willing to evolve his offensive game. We've seen the same thing for the past 3-4 years now. 3 awful games where what is this guy doing to, 2 games in a row where he's a stud. It's really going to depend if he can do his share and help out Embiid on the offensive end. I think that's really what it comes down to in the end for this team.
And look, it's a great point. Thank you so much for all the kind words in the beginning. I really do appreciate that. Yeah, look, it definitely has a big role here. Ben Simmons. He has been a problem because teams can defend your team so differently. They can do different looks, and they don't have to respect him as much, and things absolutely change. I just wonder if Joel playing at the level that he's playing, because you're so focused on him, does that allow Ben Simmons to slip in certain spots? If you're going to bring the double team, can Ben be wide open in that dunker spot and find a soft area for maybe a layup? Will that allow Danny Green or Seth Curry to be wide open? Tobias playing so strong, does that limit that focus point on Ben Simmons and his lack of offense? I don't know. All I know is the half-court set has been an issue for him in the playoffs, and he hasn't adapted in that area enough for me to think that that's ultimately going to change. I question if the surrounding pieces have changed so much and grown that now is what is different in the postseason. Everyone else getting so much better. Does that change how Ben Simmons is? Only time will tell. Just a couple other quick hitters here. Some commenters. Todd on YouTube says, we're a good team, but we have weaknesses that will be exposed in the playoffs. Not a title contender. Interesting perspective. David, team is good. Just needs to keep growing and learning each other. Get a backup for and a bench player like Derrick Rose, who is cheap but can create his own shot for the bench. Overall, I think we're good. We just have to add a piece or two, nothing major. I lean towards the David perspective here, where you got to get this backup point guard. You definitely need a backup 4, and then maybe they're deeper and stronger, and that's enough to make that significant push. That's what I feel is the most realistic, at least. And then Adrian says, one word, legit. Although he really said 3 words by saying one word, legit. Adrian thinks that this team is legit. So a lot of diversity, if you will. A lot of people all over the place. I think those are 3 examples that I just randomly pulled that are kind of in different areas there. So, look, you can feel the way that you feel about this team. We're going to give another real analysis assessment when we're at like game 40 or so. This is just the first one, but to summarize, they have exceeded my expectations. I put them in that 4 or 5 category first. Now I put them more in that 1 through 3 category, but I still have some question marks surrounding this team. What I don't have question marks with is Orbit Energy and Power. They're a great sponsor, and with over 20 years of experience in the solar industry, they are home to your solar experts in residential and commercial projects. Their solar program eliminates your electric bill completely by offering flexible financing solutions such as $0 down. They also provide water purification, backup energy services, battery storage, and more, so check out their information down below. Thank you all so much for listening, and I will see you next time.